So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this webinar with the topic Smart City Environment and Circular Economy. This is a series, the third series for 2021, and ADMX is facilitating this webinar based on the needs and for us to reassess the readiness of Africa on the topic on smart city, the environment preservation, and the circular economy. And our first speaker today, who will be sharing with us what they are doing in their hub, in their organization. I'm going to start with Tosin Ajibade from the Nigerian Climate Innovation Center. Tosin, please, can we start with you? Thank you very much. Yes, Tosin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I don't know where everyone is joining from right now this morning, but I'm here in Lagos, so it's morning here. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Ken, for having me.
Yeah.
Like Ken said, my name is Tosin Ajibade. I head the partnership.
And before you go further, please, can we have all speakers' camera on, please, so that we can see your faces as well? Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, please go ahead. Yeah.
All right, like Ken said, my name is Tosin Ajibade. I head the partnership and programs for Nigerian Climate Innovation Center. The Nigerian Climate Innovation Center is a World Bank initiative being supported by the federal government of Nigeria through the Office of the Vice President. It was being inaugurated in 2018 with the sole mandate of driving the green economy of Nigeria. And we've been doing that by supporting the green businesses in Nigeria through venture development, capacity building, access to finance, access to markets, peer-to-peer learning, and different form of support to these businesses that they might need. Our major focus are in renewable energy, waste management, water management, smart cities, sustainable mobility, and smart agriculture. We've been running since 2018, and we've had different initiatives to drive this green economy in Nigeria. Like I was sharing with Ken earlier this morning, that's one of the major core or the major drivers of a sustainable city is the SMEs or the business entrepreneurs that live in the cities. If they are smart enough, if their business is being smart enough, it's easier for them to replicate that into the city. And regardless of the policy, even though the policy is quite important and the government is quite important in sustaining and helping those businesses to understand how to scale their businesses, it's quite important that they themselves are smart and they have the capacity and the development to be smart enough to create a good business model for themselves in those cities. So that's one of the major areas where NCSE comes in. We help those green businesses to build capacity and to have a good, ready business case and business model that fits into different kind of environments that helps build a city, a sustainable city. And as I was saying to Ken, any serious city that is trying to go through the route of being sustainable or being smart, innovation, sustainability, and circularity has to be the core mandate of such cities. And through our different initiatives, from the incubation programs to acceleration programs, to hackathon, to different stakeholders engagement, high-level meetings and insights that have been sharing over the years. We've been able to create a form of a roadmap that has been helping this kind of businesses. And like I was sharing with Ken earlier today, that we are not limited to helping the green businesses alone. We are also the core of sharing insights with the governments, both at the local level to the state level to the federal level. We help them we share insight, because it's one thing to have the power and the executive power to make things work. It's another thing to have the insight to know how to exercise those executive powers and build a good policy that can regulate this policy that can help the city to become sustainable or to become smart. So we have a program we call Green Economy Insight Series, which we hold. The initial plan was that it was going to be a physical meeting where we have a roundtable stakeholders meeting with different key stakeholders in the ecosystem, both from the private and the public sector. We have a roundtable discussion where we share different insights from different sectors to be able to, so that everyone will have a roadmap, a template that is going to help them create a model to become sustainable. And like I was also sharing that we are partnering with Lagos State also for what we call a program called Last Week, and this is an innovation program that helps with awareness at the grassroots level. I mean, from at the secondary school stage. And like I was sharing with Ken earlier, that if we are going to get this right, we have to start from the early stage, both from the primary school to the secondary school, because these are characters and behaviors that needs to be inbuilt, that we need to build from the early stage. I mean, the behavioral change. We have we are driving so many behavioral change campaign right now. I mean, with so many of our partners from FC4S Lagos. I don't know if you have heard about FC4S Lagos Financial Center for Sustainability Lagos. Is a global initiative, just like NCIC, but is meant to help the financial system to become more sustainable towards their cities of location. We partner with them to form an alliance to help people change their behavioral patterns. And the reason why we are changing the behavioral pattern is because it's not being built at the early stage. I mean, if the behavioral pattern has been built from the early stage, I mean, from the secondary to the primary level, is going to everybody is going to have an inbuilt a sense of responsibility towards their cities, and for them to know their responsibility towards their own city. So these are some of the initiatives that we've been building over the years, apart from the major ones that we do in supporting the businesses. We've created an awareness and also created a behavioral change awareness towards our cities. So I don't know, Ken, if you have further questions, but I think those are the whole things we are doing in respect to what we are talking about today, helping our system understanding the roadmap to becoming sustainable. And like I also shared with you earlier before the other guests joined, that there are very little cities that we can boldly call smart cities in Africa. And the only thing we can only see is that we have cities that have created a roadmap, that have created a pathway to becoming those smart cities. And we have to look at the kind of steps or the kind of initiative that they are doing that can make us boldly say that this city is creating a roadmap or creating a pathway for them to become a smart city. And for this to happen, this kind of conversation needs to happen, this kind of insight sharing needs to happen, because it's a collaborative effort. It's not something the private sector can do alone. It's not something the private sector can do alone. It has to be a collaborative effort of with both the policy drivers and the innovation drivers and technology drivers and even the financial drivers. We have to make the financial centers to be inclusive, to know what they have to decarbonize their investments. They have to understand the kind of investment they need to be making. You have to make them understand that for you to invest in any business, you have to see the sustainability, the circularity in those businesses before you just invest. If we can include the financial centers, include all these key stakeholders, because then we are probably on our road to becoming a smart continent as a whole. Because one thing many people always, I mean, for the last decade is people have not always been carrying the financial centers along, because you just see them as just they are financial centers. But I mean, like I was telling you earlier, that becoming a financial city is quite expensive, and you need these guys along. You need to carry them along the financial centers. So you have to make them understand and help them decarbonize their investments, what the kind of things they put into money, they put their money into. So these are the kind of insights we've been sharing over the years. Like I said, one of our key partners. I mean, I'm always grateful for the partnership we have with the Financial Center for Sustainability. They've helped us understand. I mean, this is an organization that's been helping. I mean, they've been working hand in hand with the Central Bank of Nigeria, with the different financial centers of Nigeria in Nigeria, to understand the kind of role the financial institutions play in becoming sustainable. And I hope this kind of initiative and this kind of conversation keeps coming up, because we are in such a delicate stage where information keeps changing, and insight keeps evolving, and we can't keep using it still. What was being insight that was being helpful in 2019 might not be as helpful as it is in 2020, especially during the COVID era. What worked during the COVID era might not work right now. I mean, what worked prior COVID might not work right now at the recovery stage of COVID. So we have to keep updating ourselves, keep having this kind of discussion and sharing insights with ourselves to be able to say we are on the road path of becoming a sustainable city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stosin. Thank you very much. Thank you for the elaborate initiatives which your center is actually doing in respect of smart city, environment preservation, and circularity. Yes, I really appreciate your contribution. And of course, we all understand that smart city as a municipality was supposed to provide core infrastructures, and give decent quality of life for the citizens. And all what you have mentioned is actually in line of this, and also to promote clean and sustainable environment using smart solutions, Internet of Things, and optimizing some vital functions, that drives economic growth. And at the same time, promoting environmental initiatives, smart initiatives, waste to energy initiatives, circularity, solar systems, renewable energies, and these are part of what is really going on right now in Africa. It's growing diligently, and we just want to track the trajectory to know if Africa is actually moving in the right direction. So at this point, I would like to call on our speaker from Tunisia to give us the perspective, because we want to understand the different scope, from different regions in Africa, from the north, south, east, west, and of course, we also expect our speaker from South Africa to join us. So from Tunisia, please, Professor Kamel, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Kenneth, for the invitation.
Yeah.
I need just to share with you some slides.
Okay, please, you can go ahead.
My intervention here, I need to remind that Africa still using biomass as principal source of energy in different applications for power generation, for cooking, for everyday utilizations. But this utilization of biomass still in traditional techniques, we can say, and needs to be innovated. So just an idea about some statistics to show the importance of using biomass as energy source in Africa. It is you can say it constitutes almost half of the energy demand, about 50%. About 50% of the energy is covered by biomass and waste in Africa. And it will still the case until about 2035. So for about 15 years in the future, biomass still continue to remain an important energy resource for Africa in the future. But the situation actually used is, as I said, used by with traditional techniques, which are generally pollutant, so for environmental issues, and also with the low level of conversion. So it is about 10, the efficiency of conversion is between 10 and 20%. So the idea is why we have to think about the integration of new technologies used actually over the world in biomass valorization to avoid this low efficiency and to improve the environmental quality in Africa. So given the scale of biomass energy in Africa, the integration of modern bioenergy systems is essential to provide an important contribution to the future energy systems and the development of sustainable energy supplies. And the key challenge facing Africa is not to increase energy consumption per person, but to ensure access to cleaner energy services, preferably through energy efficiency and renewable energy, thus promoting sustainable consumption. So unlike most industrialized countries, which progressed from traditional energy to unsustainable conventional energy, like gas, petrol, etc., and which are now struggling to move to a sustainable energy path, Africa could, in a number of sectors, leapfrog directly from current traditional energy consumption patterns to sustainable energy options by the integration of new technologies. So consequently, the careful examination of energy consumption patterns and trends in Africa should be of interest to the sustainable development community. So here I propose in my presentation a rethinking biomass energy path in Africa using bioenergy systems technologies. So I will give you an idea about the available technologies used actually over the world to convert biomass to biochemical processes, by agrochemical processes, and thermochemical processes. So in my expertise field, I work on the thermochemical processes, so like combustion of biomass, pyrolysis, gasification, and HTC, hydrothermal carbonization or hydrothermal liquefaction. So in my presentation, I will focus on thermochemical processes to show how Africa can progress in these technologies and can make its energy futures more smart. We can say smart because it will use smart technologies. So, for example, by combustion, this is, we can say, the more mature technologies used actually in the world by using biomass in combustion, boiler, combustion system, and the heat generated by the combustion will be used to produce steam from boiler, and this steam can be used in steam turbine, and all this technology is already known in the world. So this is one of the technologies that Africa can develop in several countries like Nigeria, Tunisia, and some other countries to transform the wood, for example, the waste available with huge quantities to produce a renewable power generation. And this technology is, as I said, very mature in the world and reach about, we can say 40% to 45% efficiency, and it is clean as technology. The second technology is pyrolysis. Pyrolysis is to transform biomass to biochar, bio-oil or gas. So we will see the different techniques actually developed to transform this waste to useful fuels and renewable fuels. For pyrolysis, for example, we develop this process to transform biomass as oil. So the oil can be used to replace the diesel used actually from petrochemical. This is a crude oil, and this crude oil can be refined to be an interesting fuel in trucks, tractors, and some agriculture vehicles. Also, we can transform used tires, to avoid the pollution that can be generated by their combustion in air, in ambient, can be also pyrolyzed to produce such oil. This oil also is comparatively almost the same, has the same energy value to compare to the diesel, petrochemical diesel. So you see that the interesting issues that we can develop, and it can be developed easy in Africa to transform waste as energy source. All the other techniques used actually in Tunisia, for example, to produce char is the traditional process called charcoal pit, or in Tunisia mardouma, to produce char. So can be replaced also by some new techniques to transform the wood and the biomass to charcoal, and this charcoal will be a biochar. Is biochar since it will be with high content of carbon, and the process is very efficient energetically with about 85% compared to 15 or 20% for the traditional techniques. So this biochar has several applications. It can be used for cooking, but it can be also used, actually, it is a new trend over the world, is to be used as biochar for bioagriculture, since biochar improve the soil heat properties due to black color, improve soil water holding capacity, improve soil chemical properties such as nutrient holding capacity, improve soil biological activities, limited impact on nutrient availability to plants. So this biochar actually has several advantages to be used in agriculture, and there is several countries starting use biochar for broadcasting and incorporating biochar by hand. In Honduras, for example, biochar can also be mixed with liquid manures and applied as slurry for soil. Biochar could be applied with individual plants, and it can be mixed biochar with other soil amendments to improve the fertility of soils. So you can see that biochar, carbonization of biomass, can produce interesting products that can be used also for agriculture. It is in the logic of circulated economy. Other technology is gasification. So gasification is to transform biomass directly to gas, and this gas can be used in engine for tractors, engine or trucks, etc., and can generate power if we use it as fuel in boilers and to produce steam, etc. And can be directly also generate power through steam turbines to produce through the heat of gas boiler to produce steam, and steam can be used in a steam turbine to produce power. So this technology is also very used over the world. So there is a growing interest on gasification in the world. So there is some power plants in Finland, in Austria, and over the world. So why not gasification in Africa? Since this technology is also efficient and clean. So this is some examples of operating biomass power plants in the world. And the last technology that I will talk about is about hydrothermal carbonization, since biomass can be dry or wet. So for wet, like manures, etc., can be also converted to hydrochar, and this hydrochar can be used to produce to produce power or heat for different applications. So I think our ultimate project is to install in Africa operating biomass power plants made by African hands, like those existing over the world. I think it is a realistic dream and can be developed through the expertise of African experts to economize our energy generation, and also to think smart and clean in the future. And thank you for your interest.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you for these perspectives of renewable energy. And we really appreciate your contribution. And we look now to the next speaker from Nigeria, Uche, please. Can you give us the perspective from the Nigerian Renewable Energy Agency?
So good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you're coming from. My name is Uche Hana, mini-grid coordinator under the Nigeria Electrification Project being implemented by the Nigerian Rural Electrification Agency. So I want to start by just throwing out a few ideas and discussing a few topics. First of all, when I think of smart cities, immediately three concepts and topics come to mind. One is energy, the other is infrastructure, and the last one is policy. And why I start here is because I'm going to give us some background on my organization, but I just wanted to start with those three because they tie into how this project came into being and where we're trying to go and what we're trying to achieve. So a few years back, Nigeria actually took a very bold step to come out with what they call the mini grid regulation. This enabled small-scale mini grids to be developed throughout the country, and that allowed for private sector to come in and develop these mini grids, all being regulated with clear regulations and everything by what we call the NERC, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. So with the advent of this document is what brought about the NEP project, Nigerian Electrification Project. One thing that is critical for this sector is investment and is funding by international development partners. And so when these agencies can see a strong government backing and clear policy, it creates an enabling environment for such projects to actually come to light. So with that being in place, it gave birth to the NEP, the Nigerian Electrification Project, which is funded by both the World Bank and the African Development Bank. And I'm pleased to say it's probably one of the largest off-grid electrification initiatives in Africa and possibly across the world. $350 million US from the World Bank and an additional 200 million from the African Development Bank. So in total, $550 million US dollars has been provided to the Nigerian government to provide mini grids, captive power plants for universities, tertiary institutions, solar home systems, which are small pico solar systems that can be mounted, on individual rooftops, and then also a productive use equipment initiative. Combining all of these, sorry, let me touch back on the productive use, because that's something that's also critical to another thing that I'd like to talk about, which is sustainability. Mini grids in Nigeria are rapidly developing, and one of the key, I guess, factors to making sure that they're sustainable is the introduction of productive use equipment. So people are not just using energy for recreational purposes, but they're generating income from the use of energy. The more energy they use, the more income they generate, and therefore the more that increases their ability to pay for electricity. So just wanted to touch on that. Let us get a little perspective on the NEP, where I lead the mini grid component, and understand the importance of policy in creating such enabling environments within countries. Now moving forward, I also want to touch on Nigeria specifically, and discuss one or two things that I think are critical to smart cities coming about. Obviously, as I mentioned, it's difficult to have smart cities without proper infrastructure, and energy being one of them. So with the advent of the mini grid policy and these mini grids, we're trying to increase energy access to the general public, rural and urban and peri-urban centers. If we look at some specific cases of, I guess, innovation in the direction of smart cities, I'd like to talk about some things such as Andela in Lagos, which actually trains programmers and facilitates placement with them in software companies. And one thing that is key to having smart cities is people that can actually manage and operate these things. So having something like an innovation hub where young people can come in and get the necessary skills needed to be leaders and drive the change and the innovation needed for smart cities. Also in Lagos, there's a place called the Yabacon Valley, and as well as the Lagos State government has also launched Lagos Innovates, which actually supports tech entrepreneurs. And this was back in 2017. Lagos is also a hub for tech giants such as Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. So one thing that is also key for smart cities is the advent of high-speed communication. And in Nigeria, the telcos have invested quite a bit in making 4G available throughout the country. Yeah, that's just a few topics I'd like to talk about. I don't know, any questions from you or?
Thank you, Uche. Thank you very much for your contributions. That was very interesting initiatives which you are doing in the context of smart cities as well. And of course, I see that you're also giving very good consideration to the renewable energy sector. And yes, I think your agency is well positioned to provide these services. And of course, going forward, and right now we take our next speaker from South Africa, Gift Dubele. Please, you're welcome. You can mute. Okay. Yes.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to firstly start by saying my apologies. I did realize that I joined in a little bit late. I'm sorry about that, but I'm really excited. I'm just listening to Professor, also my colleague from Nigeria, just share about what the prospect or the possibilities for the word sustainability means in the African continent. And I do have to say, it's really exciting for me. We are seeing every day that there's vast amounts of challenges that are coming out in the African continent. And for me, that's what excites me, because I've learned that with these amounts of challenges, there's room for improvement from a policy point of view, from an innovation point of view, as well as entrepreneurship. So I am going to be mostly speaking about the environment, because that is my industry. That's what I am doing on a day-to-day. And maybe to begin, I shall share with you just an infographic of the work that we do. Or perhaps let me start by speaking, and just in closing, I will share that infographic. I didn't have a chance to prepare beautiful slides like the professor, but
please introduce yourself and while you continue, please.
Absolutely. So I am Gift Lubele. I currently serve as a COO for a company called Guruji. What Guruji is a company that believes in a world where global participation in the circular economy is something that can be easily done. So we have seen that, when we talk about smart cities, environmental sustainability, and circularity, we have seen that we are not the only ones talking about this. We've seen that there's an increasing amount of corporates who are trying to do things sustainably, organizations, individuals. And so how do we then build a platform or an environment that enables each of these different stakeholders to join in and participate? And that's what we want to do with our platform. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be speaking about environmental sustainability. And I have to say that Africa has not yet fully identified processes of measuring environmental sustainability. For the past few years, we've seen that, and we continue seeing that a lot of these companies publish sustainability reports, and yet the environment conditions, for some reason, they keep growing and they keep worsening. And yet, when we read these sustainability reports, all these companies are reporting to what's meeting their target. And so for me, what that said was there is a little bit of a disconnect between what sustainability success looks like for each of the different stakeholders involved. Take waste management for an example. We know that waste management is a huge global problem, and a lot of these different companies are reporting, how much waste is being produced in the environment and how much waste is being recycled. And in many cases, they might say 90% of the recycling of the materials that we have is recycled, which sounds good. But if we were a bit more specific and looked into what recycling actually means, we would see that what they mean is they just put stuff inside the dustbin and another company comes to pick it up. And that is not good enough. That, in fact, is not what circularity refers to, right? We shouldn't just allow ourselves to be proud after putting things in dustbin. And we've seen that this is not just a corporate problem, it's also a personal problem. The challenge in each one of us is when we see a dustbin and we have material, after we've put the material inside that dustbin, then it no longer becomes our problem, isn't it? Like, it then becomes the problem of the person who's going to come and collect that. And this has been a trend throughout, even with corporates. They report predominantly on the materials that they are able to put inside, dustbins, and a specific company comes to take it. But we should start asking, where does that material go? and where does that material end up? And for me, that's where, you know, we would start by really taking good steps towards circularity. If we understand when a corporate says I have recycled X amount, if we start asking questions like, okay, can you trace that material? Is it coming back into the value chain, or is it just being recycled in your facility to go to a specific landfill? Does it get, you know, if it does get to a landfill, that's not what circularity is. So how do we then make it come back to the value chain and contribute quite meaningfully? And, you know, there's a question that Kenneth shared with us, and it said that we need to understand what the loop is, or, you know, what is it that is missing in this ecosystem. In my opinion, and this is, you know, based on the many attempts to introduce different solutions in this industry, I have seen that context is what's missing in this industry. And what I mean by that is there appears to be a disconnect between what is actually needed from a top level management. This includes organizations, it includes companies, versus what is needed on the ground level. This is why, and Professor spoke about leapfrogging. We've heard this term over and over again, but if you look at my country, for example, South Africa, you look at their GDP, you would realize that agriculture in the past years has been one of the biggest employer in the country. Right now, agriculture is in decline. In fact, this year, I think we were at -1% decline. And you look at that and you correlate it to the youth unemployment that is happening in the country, you do see some strong correlation. So I'm saying this because before we, you know, get engaged in all these technologies and all these terms, we need to firstly understand context. And I do think that is missing. I've seen that even in some of these companies that I continue to engage with. You know, people say, oh yeah, we want to do something sustainable. We want to do it in the environment. How about we start building something and people will access it on their smartphones. And the assumption there is people have smartphones within these communities, right? So if we start really investing in the proper understanding of what is happening on the ground, I think for me, that would be a really good step towards moving to a circular economy. But understanding alone isn't enough. In fact, one could argue that these organizations do have a solid understanding of what is happening on the ground. And they've tried to do a few things, but what again might possibly be a missing factor is the monitoring, the tracking, and the visibility or the transparency of what is happening. In my organization, we truly do believe that to have a circular environment in whatever field, whether it's in smart cities or whatever, you need to firstly have a really good sense of what is happening from the beginning all the way to the top. You cannot be speaking about circularity if you do not have data to back that up. And we've seen, particularly in waste management and recycling, as this is what I do, that there are vast amounts of data that are uncaptured. There's a lot of informal information that could really give us a really good sense of what is actually happening on the ground, not reports we read, not academic reports that we read that were based on a very small sample of individuals within a selected location, really speaking about what is happening in the vast majority. And I think in closing, as I mentioned, I did want to just quickly share with you the work that we do in Guruji, just through a simple diagram that we normally use. And for me, Mr. Kenneth and my colleagues, this for me is the dream. When I think of circular economy in my mind, this is what comes to mind. So with your permission, I'll just quickly be sharing my screen now. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I would like to believe that I'd like to believe that this value chain might be edited and changed depending on different sectors, right? So this is specifically for the waste management or the supply chain of waste materials. But if you look at smart cities, you know, you look at deconstruction, you look at construction, and you know, buyers and sellers, there is a value chain that I think needs and deserves to be mapped out, and proper data mechanism of where the different materials involved in building a sustainable you know, city are found. So for us, we have identified, I mean, you could argue that there's more stakeholders to be involved here, but we have seen in our experience that these are the major contributors of a circular economy for recyclable materials. You have informal waste pickers, and you know, most of you here might have seen them in your own country. In South Africa, for example, the informal waste pickers range between 200 to about 300,000. So we have about 200 to 300,000 individuals who are collecting waste on a daily basis to make a living. And these people are doing things that are good for the environment. You know, then the question is, why is it that we're not incorporating them in, you know, these massive budgets that we normally discuss when we speak about the sustainable development goals, when we speak about circular economy? Why is it that these individuals are not on the table as well? Because they do this for a living. They probably know, you know, things that we don't know, and they deserve to be heard. We also realized that there are buyback centers. So these are mostly small to medium-sized businesses, both for-profit and for-non-profit, to collect these materials. We have transporters. These are people that, you know, transport the waste. We have recyclers. These are people that are coming in to convert these materials into products. Say, for example, they take plastic and they convert it into plastic pellets, and they sell that to manufacturers who then produce products and they sell it to brands. And municipalities as well are involved. In fact, we've engaged with a few municipalities in South Africa, and it's shocking. It's shocking because these municipalities do not know how much waste is being produced. They do not know where their waste is going. They do not know where it ends up. And they are engaging in such conversations about circular economy. And for me, it's quite interesting when you say, I want to be a circular, you know, city, but you don't even understand what is happening with your materials, who's involved. We have households as well, and what we want to do really is enable people to track materials, to trace these materials, to trade these materials, and to enable a reward mechanism through different engagements. So, for example, we recently were awarded Nestle's Global Creating Shared Value Prize last month actually, and we are doing some work with a brand such as Nestle to say, you guys are the biggest producer of a lot of these recyclable materials. So what is it that you're doing? And you don't have to do anything new. You can already work with people who are doing this for a living. So we are trying to, we are actually building a project with them where they will be working in communities to help people collect waste, convert it, and eventually supply it back to them as a brand, because these are the same brands that produce these materials. I think my time is up.
Thank you very much, Gift. Thank you very much for that good insight. And yeah, that was a very interesting presentation. And we look forward to your contributions during our discussion session. And now I'd like to take our colleague from Poland, Marek Ostafield, will be giving us some insight on smart networks and how this could resonate with Africa and collaboration with Africa. Marek, please, thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, it is a great pleasure to be present at the conference. And yes, indeed, what I would like to do is to share with you some of the information and how we take care of the smart city issues and challenges, but also how we promote the savings and opportunities and chances in Poland. And I would like to introduce to you the Polish IoT and AI cluster called Synotech. It's a quite fresh organization. I mean, we have been founded in 2019, so it's not even 2 years, but we are right now the most dynamically developing this kind of organization in Central Europe, I think. And the aim of the cluster was actually to take an advantage of the excellence and the know-how and experience of Polish entities that are working in the field of Internet of Things and smart cities. And so we provide, so we basically join forces between private and public sector to work together in the area of IoT and smart cities. And of course, in the framework of cluster, we have many different organizations, starting with technology providers, local authorities, of course, that are very important to us as a partners, universities, research institutes, NGOs. And so we work together to also to learn how to work together, especially between private and public sector, which is very often a challenge because of the very different, let's say, environments in which we are working, different dynamics in which the private and public sectors are working. And just to give you an idea, this is more than 40 partners from all over Poland of different types that we put together. They are joining the forces to either address the challenges, but also to provide technologies that are especially in many cases custom made for municipalities, for smart cities, to address the issues, to address the needs of the public sector, of the municipalities, of the cities, but also smart regions, because the very important thing that we don't want to do is to create the islands, you know, of the big cities that are smart, and to leave the rest of the area still behind in a digitization, which I think it's very important also as a approach, as a policy to really make the smart regions, not only smart cities. So, you know, from all these members, we have very wide expertise from, of course, smart cities themselves, but also including machine learning, artificial intelligence. We are also providing our own communication let's say networks, including 5G. We are also creating local 5G networks. We use LoRa. We work with green energy, which is also very important nowadays. And one of the let's say main areas of interest and top priorities for us, of course, is cybersecurity, which without which the smart cities will not be able to be smart and safe. And I think this is one of the challenges that we cannot forget in the area that you know brings more digital solutions to our lives. That those solutions, they need to be also secure. And so we provide different solutions. We work with our clients, we work with the municipalities, we work with research institutes, and we put a lot of weight also on the social impact of digitization and introducing smart solutions to cities, to regions. And of course, we don't forget about the green energy. So many of our solutions are also either help to mitigate or eliminate the CO2 emissions and promote the energy efficiency. And like I said, this is freshly funded, but very dynamically developing on our organization. We are self-funded so far, just from membership fees. We are not supported by the government or local authorities, so we are a very independent organization. But I think it's very important also the European dimension of our activities, because we have won Polish national nomination for the European Union program, which is called Digital Europe. So the competition is to become European Digital Innovation Hub. So this is kind of like a one-stop shop that will be providing many different services in the area of IoT and the smart city to both SMEs that are working in this field, but also to communities, to cities and regions. And so we lead our activities also already as a digital innovation hub, like I said, the one-stop shop, providing many different services to both types of clients. And the consortium is called Smart Secure Cities. As you see, the security is also very important for us, and to provide both reliable services, cyber secure services, but also to create a new digital environment of cities as a secure one for human beings. And like I said, this is consortium for over 30 entities with different skills. We are also a member of European organization for clusters, but also for IoT, and we already have developed partnerships in Europe, but also in the US, between organization hubs, clusters that are working also in the area of smart technologies, with a special focus on smart cities. And we are also organizing international events, conferences, webinars to provide training, to provide information for both SMEs and smart cities on how to finance the innovation, how to work together. We present technologies that are of let's say, of the high demand, but also the newest solutions for both to digitize companies and municipalities. And so we can also help our internal, let's say, partners, the consortium members, but also all the organizations, both private and public, in Poland, but also abroad, with our skills and expertise. So this is I think very important that we work together. So we listen to each other. We are talking to municipalities, to smart cities, to find out about their needs, not to prepare create the solutions that there will be later of no use, of limited use. So these solutions that we are providing are really a tailor-made, with a special focus on cybersecurity. And just to give you two examples very shortly for the end of some joint project technology solutions that we have developed within the cluster in a group of cluster members. This is, for example, smart energy optimization platform that basically can be used for any type of building, including homes, public building, the smart factories, for example. Very efficient tool that provides from day one savings in energy, preventing from overusage, controlling the usage, providing savings in the bills. But also what is important, if you save the energy, if you don't overuse it, you also we also provided tools to lower the emissions of CO2, right? So from day one, basically, if you use this platform, you're also contributing to lowering CO2 emissions. And the second one.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I see that you have several of the other solutions to be shared with us. Of course, we can send around these presentations later, but because of our time, Thank you for your presentation. Quite interesting initiatives from Poland that Africa could actually partner with. And of course, going forward, ADNet is also in touch with you because ADNet is creating a community of sectors on the platform, and it helps Africa to engage with Europe as well in terms of collaboration. On our platform, we are using the community, this different community, the opportunity to interact, to discuss realistically on how to move forward, how to take Africa forward, really. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we look forward to the discussion section, if you are still with us. And now I'd like to invite Edith, please. Thank you, Edith. I'd like to hear from you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kenneth.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for putting together this platform where you connect the different speakers to come together to know what we are doing, have insights or innovations that is happening in different parts of Africa. It has been interesting listening to my other colleagues on this platform on what you're doing. As I've been called, my name is Edith Yalome. I work with the Natural Eco Capital as a project manager for circular economy, and I'm speaking from Benin City, Edo State, Nigeria. As part of what we do, Natural Eco Capital is a sustainability firm that works with different partners like the private, the government, and also academic on emerging issues that surrounds sustainability, such as the circular economy, climate change, natural capitals, and so on and so forth. And what we normally do is to build capacity of the participants in the program to be able to work sustainably. Then apart from capacity building, we also have projects to demonstrate what could be done in the circular economy. And that's where I actually sit. Like I said, I'm the project manager for circular economy. We have a facility in Benin City, and it's on plastic waste recycling. I listened to Give how he talked about waste, and that's quite interesting. It makes some very salient points that needs to be actually, work with in the waste management industry. Plastic, for example, has been a global challenge, and putting the solutions together to see how this could be addressed has been typical issues for a very long time, and it's still on. And this is because of the impact, both with the land-based and the marine-based and the blue economy issues. And what we have tried to do on our own end is to convey the concept of waste as resources, to change mindsets about how people could actually view plastic waste as a resource. And instead of just discarding it and it ends in the dump site, stays there for several years, is not degrading and all that, causing a lot of problem in the society. We create a room for them to bring in. We collect at a particular amount, and we process into flakes, and we have off-takers that take them and introduce them into other production processes. Now, the issue of waste management as it relates to plastic, as like I said, has been a topical one, and it has actually caused a lot of environmental degradation. But it's also an opportunity for us to actually raise, to create economic empowerment and green jobs in the society. So what we try to do with our initiative is to use social solution to address environmental problems. So we have create green jobs for factory workers to work as factory workers. And we also have, like I said, we buy this plastic, so it has value. When we came at particular to Benin City, these PET bottles was not something that they were interested in because there was no value in it. And when we started, we were taking like 20 naira per kg, for example. But now it has so much increased to like 17 naira, even more than 17 naira in some places. And this has actually attracted a lot of people into the space of the plastic collection. They want to go into business because they can get something from it. And also, it has also provided, a platform for like an organization, the Nigerian Environmental Erosion Control, is a arm of World Bank. They have challenged with the integrity of the infrastructure. What was the challenge? They are supposed to control flooding and erosion, so they build ponds and other facility that will actually trap water and channel it to a particular place. But now this facility integrity is being threatened because people indiscriminately discard their plastic and has blocked the drains and all that and causing problems within that environment. And they needed to visit to see how actually the plastic collection and processing actually work. So we can see that the solutions are in the space of the plastic waste, in the space. And also, we also have, we belong to an organization, the Recycling Association of Nigeria, and this creates a platform for like-minded people to come together and share experiences, and also to have a voice to, to see how we can collectively have approached the relevant bodies to see how we can get support. For example, the industry is very guided by policy, to say, okay, you need to do this, you have room for this, you have permit, you have this and all that. And that has actually still helped. Aside this, you have a financial constraint also and all that, and a bank that is coming up to say, okay, if you're a member of this, you can actually come out and we give you have some criteria you can go through. But those are rigorous as somebody that is outside the association. So it actually gives an opportunity for you to develop your system and advance. And I would say something about policy. Along the line, I know Nigeria has come up with the producer responsibility, extended producer responsibility policy, which is using to drive the circular economy. This has been very helpful. And with that policy too, we have a sectorial approach where we have bodies, especially the producers like Coca-Cola, you have Nestle, and I think Guinness and all that coming together to form an alliance and see how they can be responsible for what they are producing. And with that, they actually help to give support to the people into recycling space to see how they can actually address the problem of recycling. Apart from plastic, we have the batteries and I think one other one. Then, and also on the plastic issues, it's important to give a voice to what Gift said in South Africa. The informal sector, they actually do a lot of work. Before we actually have, this circular economy coming up as a topic that we have to discuss now, recycling has been there. People have been trying to, they live, that's what they live on, and they can actually fight and die for it when you want to take that business from them. They're very strong, but they are not organized to that extent to say, okay, we can give you a voice and you can stand on your own, just like we have in Brazil. I'm aware of projects of waste to energy that they wanted to put up in Brazil, but the waste speakers stood up that they're not considered because that's going to take their resources from there, and that's where their livelihoods come from. And because there was no proper consultation with them on how they're going to live with this, that project has to be stopped. So we can actually have this type of thing being, replicated in other parts of the world, and Africa indeed, if these waste speakers can actually come together to form an association and be organized. Because most of them have actually been to the dump site to see how they operate and all that. Even communicating with them is an issue, and they have a very stubborn mindset that, at times they just see you and whatever level you want to call me, you have to be very careful with them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's on that. I just needed to speak on that. And another thing is the issue of logistics, and that's where I think this digital transformation has to actually come in. One of the costs in this plastic recycling endeavor is logistics. If I want to pick like a ton, that's 1,000 kg of PET from say one location to the other, because they are lightweight and it can easily just fill up a truck and all that. the amount I'm going to spend to transport it from one side to the other, so much that can actually be, drawing close to the amount I bought the material. And this has been an issue with us in this space. It actually not make you to be effectively collect in some areas that you ought to collect their waste materials from them. And I think one of the ways that technology can actually help in this aspect is using the concept of reverse logistics, whereby if I have, and that has to do with connectivity of the people in the field. If I have, say, a truck that is going to, say, for example, Kano, and I'm in Benin, and so the truck is going to come back empty, I can use that opportunity to say, okay, when you're coming back, pick my goods from there or do this for me so that I'm going to pay less compared to me just taking a vehicle that's going to go through and through, and it's going to charge me for 2 ways. But if I'm able to know, if I have a platform where we can connect, you have available a truck for this and all that, you'll be able to reduce to a considerable level the impact of the cost in the value chain of collection in the plastic space. But another important thing is that when we talk about circularity, yes, we are looking at the end, what are the menace we have at hand to address it. But the most effective way to do this is actually to start at the design level, and that's where circularity actually starts from. There are some plastics that you keep recycling at the point the cascade, it cascades and the level actually reduces. So at the end of the day, you're still going to discard some of them. Another aspect again is that there's some plastic, because of the components it contains that they are toxic, they cannot actually go into the recycling. They are not recyclable. So we have a lot to do at the design aspects. And that's where, again, technology can actually come in. You need to see what is happening. You need to know what constitutes you are going to put into what you're doing so that you'll be able to tell at the end of the day what's going to be the end of life result of that and how it can actually go back into the recycling, into the production process.
Thank you, thank you very much, Edith. That was some very good insight, which was already cited out. You point out the social solutions, supply chain and viable logistics, which I fully agree that is the transport mobility aspects needs to be looked at. And we look forward to your contributions again during the discussion session. And now I move quickly to Nomso Okeke. Please, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Yes, good morning.
My name is Nomso Okeke. I'm an associate at Clean Technology Hub. Oh, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yeah, go on, please. Yeah. You can speak, please.
Hello.
You can speak. We can hear you.
Okay. So Clean Technology Hub is, we are seated at the intersection of energy access and climate action. And we are a research, development, and incubation and demonstration hub for the inventions of clean technology ideas. And we help to take them from the incubation stage to the deployment stage. And our main focus is to be a driver of sustainable development across Nigeria and the rest of Africa. One of the projects that we do at Clean Technology Hub is Circular Economy. I am the lead of the Circular Economy program at Clean Technology Hub. And our focus is primarily in the area of research because we are first and foremost a research-based organization. So what we do is we conduct research on the state of circular economy in Nigeria, but also the states of waste production and how households, what their habits are regarding waste. And we've learned that perhaps the biggest issue facing Nigeria when it comes to circularity and waste is that we have a deeply ingrained culture of use and dispose in Nigeria, or as they call it, take, make, waste. So, and unfortunately, there just isn't enough information, especially to people in rural communities, regarding what to do with waste, how to actually look at waste, how to dispose of waste, and what happens after you're done consuming an item. As for people who either live in Nigeria or have been to Nigeria or other parts of Africa, you notice that we have a litter culture where people use something and they just throw it out of the window, they throw it on the ground, throw it on the roads, and everywhere it's just, litters everywhere. And we've realized that in order to connect these people to the circular economy as a whole, they actually need to be educated on this. And we have then inserted ourselves into the gaps. And what we do is we go into communities, especially those in underserved areas, whether it's rural communities, areas that don't readily have access to information, access to electricity, and are sort of left out of the national discourse on certain issues. So we go in there to engage with these people, whether it's in primary schools, whether it's in local community centers, whether it's in markets. We also carry out events such as cleanup campaigns. So earlier in the year on World Environment Day, we actually carried out a cleanup campaign here in Abuja. And this was a combination of multiple activities. So first and foremost, it was primarily clearing up the area. So just cleaning up litter, waste, discarded materials. But then it was also an opportunity to engage with the local community, to ask them, what do you know about circular economy? How do you perceive these items that are all over the ground? What do you think of waste? Do you think that this has any impact on the environment? And unsurprisingly, I guess, most people had absolutely no idea what the impact of waste was. Most people didn't know that these materials don't decompose. They didn't know that sometimes animals eat these things and it kills them. They didn't know that it actually washes up into rivers and streams and the ocean. And even those that do, we have this perception of looking at the ocean or as water bodies as separate from us. We live on land. The ocean is something else. It's not our business. Our only relationship with the ocean is we're either fishing or maybe somebody's swimming or just traveling, but we don't look at it as an integral part of the global ecosystem. So when we speak to these people and we begin to engage with them, you realize that it's actually, for a lot of people, we look at it as, we just have this horrible culture of waste and people are irresponsible. But it's actually far more complex than that. It's because people are replicating learned behavior. But once you actually explain to them the consequences of their actions and you take the time to educate them and explain to them that this is what happens and this is why you should stop, you realize that a lot of people are actually eager to take correction and change their activities, because a lot of people here are actually far more invested in the betterment of this country than it may seem. It's just that many of them feel they don't have the power to, they are not, they're too small, they can't make a difference. But when you go into these communities and you educate people, you speak to them one-on-one, instead of, sometimes people get caught up in these obnoxious means of educating people. They're handing out all these technical flyers, they're speaking to them with very high level, information. But when you come down to their level and you speak to them in a way that they can understand you, then you realize that they are very eager to uptake these ideas. I'll give you an example. So during our cleanup campaign, we worked with a community restaurant called Kwalika Park, somewhere along the express. And it's actually quite a popular place for people who are driving by. They come back, they stop by maybe on their way to work or their way home from work. And we realized that they actually generate a ridiculous amount of plastic, because whether it's plastic bottles for people to drink water, plastic cutlery, plastic dishes, just all types of plastic there. And when they're done, they just throw it into the bin outside, or sometimes it's littered around the area. And they don't think much of it. But in the process of the cleanup, and we spoke to them about it, they actually collected so much plastic, not just from their restaurant, but from the surrounding area. And we then connected them with an organization that collects waste and recycles it and then also pays them back. And we found that by doing so, and by giving people this monetary incentive to become more invested in their environments, they actually begin to take this initiative, and they don't need to be further driven to be engaged in this. And we've realized that this is a highly effective way of community engagement. Sorry, can anyone hear me? I don't know if I'm frozen.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, continue, please.
Hello.
Continue. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. So we realized that this was actually highly effective, and it was a way to make people feel empowered. And beyond that, beyond just collecting waste and recycling it or clean up the environment, we also realized that there are avenues for employment. You see, so we have 5 key thematic areas at Clean Technology Hub. We do research, policy, training, enterprise development, and there's I can't exactly remember the last one right now. But what we realize is that when we work with these people and we promote the idea of circularity amongst them, they actually begin to look for other ways to make money out of it. So for example, one of the most popular ways is art. And I'm sure some of you have seen people who take scrap beads, metal, plastic, and they convert it into forms of art, whether it's for sale or for their own personal use. And this is something that a lot of people take a lot of pride in. You know, when they take something that could have been discarded and they actually convert it into something that people like, people enjoy, people buy from them. And that then creates an avenue for people to generate their own income. And especially in a country that, you know, is blighted by economic instability and uncertainty, and there's a high rate of unemployment, especially due to the economic downturn as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. You see, there are lots of people who are desperately looking for a source of income somewhere. And for many people, they had no idea that this was, you know, something that they could do. Some people had so much talent to do these things, but they didn't even think of, oh, I could take this plastic bottle, I could take this discarded beads, I could take these things and turn them into art and sell it, whether it's on the roadside or in the markets. So by explaining these things to people, even something like tires, people find discarded tires and they turn them into seeds. They turn them into things for potted plants. And for some of us who have seen these things, you know, we look at it and we don't think much of it. We just think, oh, this is art. It's commonplace. But for some of these people, it's actually a revolution for them. It's like, wow, I never knew that this was something that I could do and actually make money off of it. So when you find these really integrative ways of preaching, I guess, the gospel of circular economy, you find that there are lots of people who are willing to jump into this thing and take a firm hold of it. And from there, you don't actually need to follow up on these people. You don't need to push them. You don't need to encourage them, because they have found something they can make money off of, something that makes them feel good, and something that, you know, they feel like they are contributing to a better Nigeria. And because of this, this is how we really, really want to go into pushing forward the circular economy agenda. You know, it's very important to, you know, be the company that's recycling, that's producing the goods. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the insights. It's so interesting what you have just described, your contribution, especially the motivation aspect, which is very interesting. And we look forward to our discussion now, which will start we'll discuss now in the next 40 minutes. And really to ask ourselves, is Africa really in the right trajectory, and how do we measure the progress at the moment? And yeah, we have to be very realistic with ourselves. And Nonso and Tosin, you have really touched the core of how we could actually get started in terms of capacity building, research and development as well. And also the collaborations and with Europe and with other continents, really. And on the ADMF platform, we are facilitating these discussions across continents, especially with Africa. And in Africa, we are engaged with different regions. And of course, your participation today also makes you a member on our platform. You'll be having some your login details so that we can actually continue with the discussions. So if I'd like to take the first question, really, which I would really like us to have very sincere feedback, is how do we measure the progress in Africa? Are we really making progress? Are we touching the core in terms of what is missing? And if we are not touching the core of what is missing, how do we make progress? What could be your recommendations? Because we need to define some action points going forward. And that is the reason why we're having this discussion today. So realistically, is Africa really making progress? Edith, I would like to start with you. Yes, you're unmuted now.
All right, thank you. Yes, you just said we should be very realistic about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And to the question you've just asked, whether we're making progress in terms of circularity. Well, we can say we are making progress in the fact that there are numbers of innovations that are coming up here and there in the circular economy space. The numbers of innovation we have 2-3 years ago is not what we have presently. I say this from the platform that I mentioned earlier, the RAN, Recycling Association of Nigeria. They actually provide a platform to see what is happening in other parts of the country. And you could see a lot of innovations, artwork that are coming up from waste materials, museums, so many things are actually, coming up. And also attention has been given to some of the work that has been done, because this year alone, we have had about over 10 or so from the platform, well over 10, awarded with funding, with winning challenges and all that on what they're doing. So in terms of what is being done in the space of circular economy, we can say we are making progress. But this actually, when compared to broadly, we will say we still have a long way to go. Another aspect again that I would still say we are making progress is in terms of policy. I would say we are not where we ought to be, but we are not where we used to be. In the past 5 or so years, we are not there. We have moved considerably from where we were then. Much effort is being put into policy reforms on how they could embrace the circular economy, especially in cities like Lagos, like Abuja, and others. And there have been a number of workshops that has been going on in this space to educate people, to bring people together to collaborate in the space. And also, we had the plastic policy on plastic that came out this year. So you could say in the terms of policy too, things has been done. And a lot of work also, I'm aware of the works that the Center for Innovation, the Climate Change, we have one of the speakers here. We can say a lot of progress has been made in terms of building capacity of people that need to be, that are coming to the space. But what we just need to do is to see how we can develop further and how we can develop further and, reach people that are actually not included, that ought to be included. For example, the informal sector, they do a lot of work at the dump site and all that. They need to be included in the discourse on the circularity, circular economy and all that. Then we need a lot of collaboration. Again, we have achieved some things in the terms of collaboration. Like I said before, in the plastic space, we have organizations coming to form alliance to be responsible for what they're doing and support businesses that are into that space. And they have actually still tried, because we see some of the things they are doing. So in terms of collaboration, we are also making progress. Then in terms of information, how we can actually interconnect with each other so that we know what is happening on that place. You can learn from experiences and all that. Too much things have not been done in that field. Because you see people that are actually coming and they are interested in the field because they don't have information on how to go about it. You see them just falling back, and the experiences they have might actually weaken them from coming back to actually participate in that field. Not too long ago, somebody that was very enthusiastic, to go into the field of sachets, the sachets water recycling. it has so much enthusiasm to say, okay, we want to clear Sokoto state of the street of sachet water waste. But it ended up, it actually used his salary as a loan for it. But because of maybe some little things that was not considered before going into that, he has packed up. He's folding and trying to see how he can sell. So we need an information platform that we can actually share and educate and learn from experiences, know how, what to do, not to fail, what you can build on to say how you can develop. Then measurement of circularity.
Thank you very much. And that's some very good insights, really. And probably I would like to ask Uche, maybe you could give us some insights in terms of sustainability. And should we build these systems according to the African societal model? Should we take this into context as well? Uche, please.
All right, thank you, Kenneth. So you mentioned, I think, sustainability. And obviously, for circular economy, sustainability is quite key. And definitely in Africa, sometimes things do work a little differently and at different paces. But I don't think that should stop us from looking externally and taking the experiences of other nations and bringing them home. But obviously, at the same time, we need to understand and work with, I guess, developers and companies that understand the African context and how business is done in Africa. And I mean, surprisingly, I think we are making quite good progress, or at least some progress, on the African continent. It's estimated, I think, in 2030 or so, out of the 41 megacities, 6 will actually be in Africa. We're talking of Cairo, Lagos, Kinshasa, Johannesburg, as well as Dar es Salaam. There are quite a few, I guess, smart cities being developed. I can speak of Eco-Atlantic right here in Nigeria, in Lagos, a city that's mixed residential commercial use, and it's been created from reclaimed land. So I think as far as understanding the African context, it's quite critical. But I think that we are making progress, and there are countries, nations, and cities that are looking ahead into the future and trying to find ways to work within that African context, but also look towards the future and think globally and expand the possibilities of their cities. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Professor Kamel, please, can you give us some insights on this, what you think the approach on adoption of capacity building and other policies that could help in shaping the Africa smart city going forward?
Is really very instructive between different African countries and different contexts between the African partners. So I think to install a real infrastructure for sustainability and particularly for waste management and valorization, we have to introduce in the academic programs the adequate technologies for engineering schools in Africa. So we give different courses in different fields, etc. But we have to focus in the universities, in African universities, on the construction of these future experts for to be more adequate for the African context and to be formed on the realistic problems of African countries. And I think these technologies are not very hard to to be introduced in African engineering schools, and can be in my as I now, because I give some courses for in Tunisia, but also for European and US universities in this field. And the problem, as Edith said, is the policies in Africa are not adapted for the realistic problems for the African countries. Because we can get the technologies, we can get the scientific and technical knowledge, but how to implement it in the realistic context? We need some new policies to permit engineers, African engineers, and African business men and women to help us to install and to implement these technologies to resolve our problems. Why, for example, these technologies that I presented previously are very used over the world, even not in European or American countries, but also in China, in India, and everywhere. Why not in Africa? And I think also Africa has a lot of potentials to get its satisfaction in terms of energy, since the wastes are huge, with huge quantities everywhere in Africa. And I think there is some lobbyists who don't have this interest to introduce these new technologies because they have business by these wastes. For example, I give you the example in Tunisia. Tunisia is well known by the olive oil production. So this production of olive oil is also accompanied by the production of huge quantities of olive pomace. And this olive pomace is a very interesting source of energy. So we can use it to produce electricity directly by combustion, for example. But we have not policies which permits to use this material to produce energy. And these huge quantities produced each year by Tunisian olive oil producer is exported to Europe to produce green energy. So you can see the contradiction in the context.
Yeah,
so
I thank you very much, and thank you for bringing out that very sincere point about some businesses trying to put their interest before before the sustainability of what we are discussing today. And how do we really tackle that? You know, this is kind of an open question because it's happening not only in North Africa, it's happening in West Africa, in East Africa, you know, because of business interests. They try to prevent some, you know, circularity activities, you know, and this is not really good going forward. And this is an open question. Who would like to take this up? Can we discuss this openly? Because it's an issue, and in all discussions I've been involved, I've always come across this kind of question: business interest. Can Africa really move forward when we have this huge problem? Any one of us who would like to take this up?
Yes.
Can I call on Gift, please, from South Africa? Gift, please.
Yeah, thank you for.
Might be a very difficult question, but what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah. So maybe let me push it back to you to rephrase the question in a slightly different way.
Okay.
Do you want to do that?
To rephrase the question?
Can you rather say it just?
Yes. The question is, you see, in the circularity scheme, you understand what I'm trying to say? And in order for because circularity is changing a lot of things, but some agents in the value chain, because of business interests, they want to keep things as usual. You understand what I'm trying to say? And they try to prevent some circularity schemes from happening.
Right. Thank you for that. So I had an answer, but I thought maybe let me not jump the gun. I think my answer to your question is one of leadership. Again, I'll have to go back to my industry. I'm afraid of speaking about smart cities without having depth knowledge. But what we've learned is there appears to be a gap in between the ages of 18 to about 45. Once we start engaging with anyone who is 45 years of age all the way to 70, in my industry, we've seen ridiculous amounts of pushbacks. And I don't want to believe, that comes with age. I believe it's just choices people make. But the good thing about this, Mr. Kenneth, is in a few years, it's predicted that the African continent will be home to more young people than any other place in the world, which means Asia, Europe, America would not have a population as youthly dense as the African continent. And of course, the articles written by the Times that said this is a time-ticking bomb. I think it's an opportunity. The question of enablement of circular economy, I doubt it has a lot to do with technology than it has to do with leadership. We are seeing, there's a NOMSA, Mr. Okeke, I hope I'm pronouncing your name well.
Yes.
He was speaking about what they have to do to educate communities. I think the same amount of investment needs to go in educating our leaders. We have assumed that because people are in leadership position, they know, and they don't. A lot of leaders don't understand, and I'm talking about people who are in big positions, in organizations that could definitely accelerate the circular economy in the African continent. These people, they don't truly understand why is it that circular economy firstly is important for their organization. It is important for them personally and for the environment. We have seen time and again when I'm engaging with people that the minute I mention the word sustainability, people say, okay, we have done our corporate social responsibility initiative. We have given X amount of money back to charity. I'm like, why are you putting that in the same category? This has nothing to do with, the do good. This is something that your business needs to put at its core and understand that in fact, there are more opportunities in the circular economy than there are currently. So I think my answer to that would definitely be we need to encourage and invest in training leadership in positions of policy, in positions of, any type of government, in positions of private sector.
Okay, thank you. And in addition to what you have just said, there's also needs for very serious critical awareness campaign in order to bring the interests of the environment. Also, environmental preservation is one of the very important key elements which we really need to pursue as a continent. And of course, this business interests, if they realize this, probably they could start having some change of mind because it affects everybody. It affects health. It affects virtually everything in the ecosystem. So I think it is really more about leadership and awareness. And Nonso Keke also mentioned the social aspect. Of course, this also comes into play. And I would like to ask from Marek from Poland, how do you tackle this in Poland? Probably you can share with us. Marek, please.
Yes, thank you very much for unmuting. Yes, in fact, well, I think that the most important thing that we all need to remember that we all have basically the same problem. You know, the education doesn't really matter. I mean, you know, I think that we really cannot, and unfortunately, we cannot say, oh, well, in one, you know, it's only problem of Africa or some other part of the world. Of course, the scale is sometimes different, but in general, the education, it's needed everywhere. It's not like, you know, some regions are just perfectly, you know, educated and they follow and you know, the instruction, and they segregate the trash and everything. No, unfortunately, it's not. So I think it's our global responsibility, and I think there's a big chance for all of us to work together to learn from each other experiences, because it's not like, you know, one region has monopoly of solving the problem. Unfortunately, not, or maybe fortunately, because then, you know, we can share the experience. We can see how things are being done in different areas. You know, technology is one thing. You know, to having technological tools to solve the problem, which is also very important. But no technology will solve the problem by itself. You know, the human factor is the most important, and that's our global effort to do that. You know, we can exchange the information of the technologies or tools, you know, that can help us. But I think we need to join the forces. And just to give you examples also from Europe. Europe also is not just, you know, at the same level everywhere in terms of the introducing the waste management. You know, there are unfortunately islands that are more advanced, and the places that they're still lagging behind of the mid. And I think this is for us really challenge for the next couple of years. I'm not talking about even a decade, but really literally years in which we need to address this solution and focus on development, because the scale of the problem, of course, is raising. We have, I mean, like the predecessors, they said the policy is very important. Yes, of course, it is important. And for example, you know, Europe gives the examples of some policies of the laws that let's say they help or they show the direction on the guidance. But you know, one thing is the policy, but then the second thing is execution, right? So the policy will not will be dead, let's say, or empty, and just the words on paper. So I think more we can all together do on our little playgrounds and our regions, the better is for us. And I think that the key is here the cooperation and exchange of knowledge, how to tackle the challenges. That would be my point.
And the concluding note, Tosin from the Climate Innovation Center. What do you concluding notes, please? Your contributions towards this sustainability and what you think from the policy aspect as a concluding note. Thank you.
All right. Just like I said the other time, for a sustainable city, innovation, circularity, and sustainability are super key, and the policy needs to be reformed in not just Nigeria alone, but Africa as a whole. I mean, like some of the speakers have said, Africa, there's been some progress, at least in some part of Africa, but at the same time, there still needs for us to do more. And like I also said the other time, that there's need for financial inclusion. There's need for a huge financial inclusion. We all talk about some transition to a sustainable city and a smart city, and we always forget that it requires a lot of money, huge money. Building infrastructure is always costly, and is we need to carry the financial centers along and make them understand and help them decarbonize the areas that needs to be invested in. And so the progress might not be as visible as we want it to be because like the other speaker said, which you said the other time, you mentioned like six states that have six, I think states that are, or cities that are on their way to becoming a smart cities. But I mean, can we use just 6 states to measure progress of how many cities we have in Africa? But at the same time, you have to understand that you have to start somewhere. I mean, the pilots in Africa somewhere before it can be scalable. But at the same time, the fact that it's just few of these states that have these templates or these roadmaps to becoming a smart city is not making the progress very visible. We need more cities to become smart cities and sustainable. So we need to have so many inclusions. There has to be a lot of collaborations that needs to happen, not just we have been the policy makers alone to have a review of policy and probably to make a a welcoming environment and all. What that is a huge part of it, but we can't leave it for the policymakers alone. It has to be a joint
Thank you. Thank you.
There has to be a lot of collaboration.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I will ask OKK, please, your concluding notes and probably some recommendations going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will just say, for my conclusion, I would just say it's very important for us to ensure that we're carrying everybody along in our path towards circularity. Because yes, in as much as it's important to make sure that the people on high, the leaders, are actively invested and actively involved, we also need to make sure that the people at the grassroots level are being carried along. Because one thing I wanted to say earlier, the first question you asked was, there is, in as much as you have the political economy of circular economy in terms of people who just, they have vested interest that circular economy is interfering with and they don't want to engage with that. It's also the case with people lower down the spectrum, like people who might be selling certain things or they have businesses and certain things that don't mesh with circularity. So you need to educate these people as well and let them know that, listen, think long term. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I so much appreciate your contributions today. And I will ask every one of us to put on your camera, please, so that we can just have see everybody's faces. Thank you so much. I appreciate these are very valuable contributions you have provided today, and we look forward to taking this further. And that is the reason why the ADNet, African Digital Leadership Innovation Network, has been created, where we are looking at issues really. And my other colleagues also on the ADNet platform as co-founders, they are also members of different groups, organizations in Africa. And what we see, it is more about funding this, funding that, but nobody is really discussing the reality, to be very realistic with ourselves. How do we go forward, Now we cited some business interests. We have cited the loopholes in the capacity building as well. Because if you talk to an entrepreneur in a hub, how do you get education? He doesn't want somebody else to come and overthrow him. Concept. And with this kind of understanding, we cannot really move forward, really. And that is why we really need to bring the academia into the circle. We need to get in touch as well with the funding, the business, creating the awareness. I mean, everybody having the critical idea, on the goal, on the objective of why Africa really needs to key into this digital era, and why this issue of circularity needs to be taken serious, And of course, for the business guy, he needs, wants to, but environmental preservation is the ultimate, really. And this affects even his immediate family, So this information needs to transcend, we need to share, we need to come in as a community. And the reason why we have developed these tech communities, sectorial communities that ADNet is facilitating, in order for us to engage across the continent in Africa and also intercontinental. And that is the reason why we are having these very good, interesting discussions. I so much enjoy your contributions today, and of course, the recommendations going forward. And we have, as an agency, as an organization, will be sharing this experience with other stakeholders in Africa, the UN, the AUC, and of course, to see how we could really move Africa forward. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And at the same time, you'll be having the recorded version of our discussions today so that you can also share with your networks. And also, you are also a member of the African Digital Leadership Innovation Network, because I'll be sending you the login details as well, so that we can continue these discussions. And of course, this is just the third of our tech series this year. We also have some other discussions on agri-tech, on education tech, supply chain, which is coming in December, and the virtual African Digital Carnival, which we intend to host. And of course, we have gotten some volunteers from Spain, from across the world that would like to support this digital carnival. Thank you so much. I appreciate, and I look forward to other successive discussions in the future. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you for your contributions. Yes. Yeah. Bye-bye.